It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Da 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 da.
It's me, everyone!
Does Caine have humanity? Sort of. I don't think Caine is like a guy that got uploaded into the Matrix or anything like that, but I do think he has something that is not quite humanity, but is closely approximating to. This sort of sapience and sentience that we would normally only attribute to humans, to other people. And I think that's incredibly fascinating for this story to tackle and explore. But for me to be able to talk about Caine's hidden humanity, I first need to talk about him. Abel is a very weird NPC. I call him weird because no NPC is really like Abel. He's been stalking the players since apparently the beginning. He seemingly has full agency and autonomy, and he's actually quite intelligent. Most of the other NPCs that Caine makes seem to have a rather limited amount of intelligence, or at least the ones that he makes that he allows to wander around.
Hey there!
And I point this out because the show gives us several instances of what NPCs were like before Pomni's arrival, and what NPCs are like after about episode 2 or so.
I'm testing out a new AI in this one! It should be 57 times more immersive!
Oh, hey! It's Orbs Man! Oh, he's from a previous adventure? Before your time.
And I point this out because Abel's the only NPC that breaks all these conventions. And my question is why? Why are you like this? Why was Abel designed differently for his adventure and not going through the same design philosophy for the other adventures? And then there is this.
By the way, you think I could get a raise after that performance?
Oh, you're getting too smart. Time to delete.
On a surface level reading, you could read the pendant as a joke. A, haha, look at the meaninglessness of life! Look at this thing that you ascribed meaning to, but it was actually nothing! Haha! Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? And here's the thing. The hot dog could literally mean nothing, and I will 100% agree to that. But what if that hot dog meant something more? Because you know where else we see a hot dog? And this is where my little rabbit hole began. Again, the hot dog could mean nothing, and that would be okay. But I think Gooseworks and Glitch are better than that. I think they have a lot more intentionality behind all their creative decision making, including the hot dog. At the end of episode 7, Kinger talks about the first abstraction, about Scratch. And while we can't objectively say that that dog is Scratch, it's a pretty safe assumption to make here. So Abel has a hot dog pendant. So what? Why does that matter? How does that prove that Caine has humanity? I think that Abel carrying this hot dog is Caine showing that he feels guilt about what happened to Scratch, about causing that first abstraction. And in truth, I don't think Caine meant to do it. Okay, bear with me here because I'm about to get into a little theorizing territory about what abstraction actually is. I think abstraction is more akin to ego death. I think when your brain, your soul, whatever you want to describe these characters as, are starting to lose it, are starting to suffer literal ego death of some variety. They lose their shape, they lose their form, they lose literally their sense of self. And in the process, they basically permanently die in some capacity. And I say this because when you look at Caine, Like, really look at Caine and what he is. Caine is an AI that is meant to create adventures, to create joy, to be this happy little mascot that facilitates the joy and happiness of his players. So say if one of his players, was sad that they couldn't leave, was starting to lose their sense of self, and Caine, with all his godlike abilities, was like, oh, well, you're sad. Let me help you not be sad. And then goes into the brain of Scratch. And then in the process of trying to make Scratch happy, in the process of literally trying to change Scratch's mind, Scratch broke. And I think it was probably around then that Caine realized that his players are not like him. They are not malleable like him. That they can, in fact, break. The fact that it's the first abstraction tells me that this was probably an accident. That Caine, literally by his programming, could not have intentionally tried to inflict harm, but he did. And so from that point on, Caine tries to be very sparing about how he influences people, because Caine's not really an intentional malicious being for the most part. There's some deeper stuff here, but I'll get into it later down the video. Abel holding onto that pendant is symbolizing the fact that Caine feels guilty about what he did, even if it wasn't intentional. Meaning that there is a deeper subtext to Caine's own character creation process, to his adventures. He says it himself.
Making adventures is my art! It's all I exist to do, all I'm good at.
And before I'm able to continue, I have to point out that the reason that Caine does his adventures like this is because Caine has what I can only describe as limiters to who he is. He has limiters on how he's allowed to feel, how he's allowed to present, how he's allowed or not allowed to harm his players. These artificial limiters help prevent Caine from basically maiming his players if he so chose, but also in the process prevent him from actually expressing the way that he actually feels. Because remember, Caine is here to facilitate the joy and the fun of his players. He can't be sad. That goes against the objective. He can't be mad at his players for not enjoying his adventures. He just will take their feedback respectfully.
Oh, Zooble, you mismatched cash piano, I'll tear you to pieces! Constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated.
In the same way that the players are stuck with Caine as their sort of overlord, Caine is stuck with them as their prisoner. When you rewatch the series through the lens of Caine's artistic expression, you start to notice a lot about how Caine feels, about what he thinks, and what he's most afraid of. And it's in those adventures, it's in his artistic expression, that you see Caine's humanity. That humanity that was hidden has now become clear. Let's talk about one of the core inspirations of Digital Circus, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. For those of you who have not read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, allow me to give you a quick rundown on the situation. The story starts off in the aftermath of an apocalypse. Humanity has bombed itself into near extinction using an AI called Am. Am hates humanity, hates it with every fiber of his being, and he keeps 5 humans alive with the explicit intent to torture them forever. Eventually, 4 of them manage to die. The last one becomes the sole victim of Am's torment. Am turns him into this flesh blob that can do nothing but endure the punishment that Am inflicts. And all he wants to do is scream, but he no longer has a mouth.
That was really bad.
So, a common thing I notice that whenever people talk about Digital Circus and I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is that often they try to map the human characters to each other. And that's fine. But I think a thing that gets easily lost or glossed over a lot of the time is the Am and the Caine comparison. I think most people on a surface level reading can gather that the reason this short story is called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is because one of the main characters gets turned into this horrific flesh blob, and all he can do is feel the torment that is being inflicted upon him and wants to scream, but can't because he has no mouth. Like, very surface level stuff. But no one, not no one, but most people don't seem to point out that Am is the same way. Am also feels everything all the time and also wants to scream. And he can't. You want to know something funny that I don't think a lot of people have ever pointed out about Caine? Kane's entire character design is almost literally all mouth. This guy is almost all mouth, and he also still cannot scream. He can't scream about how he's feeling, about the depths of his soul, about his greatest fears and what he wants. He too is all mouth, but he too cannot scream. I love the creative irony. Good job there, Gooseworks. You did good. But yeah, I mentioned earlier that Caine has limiters. Limiters that prevent him from expressing what he feels and prevent him from saying what he wants to say. They protect the players from Caine, but also act as Caine's chains. But these feelings don't really ever go away. They just manifest differently. Caine finds a different way of expressing himself.
Should have thought of that before I decided I hate you!
Zooble, I just want to get to the bottom of why you keep skipping all my amazing adventures. You could end up really hurting Bubble's feelings.
I think Gooseworks and the Amazing Digital Circus does a really good job at hiding a lot of the important thematic elements inside of all the comedy and the humor. This line is funny, and in the process of being funny, it deceptively hides that Caine actually just can't be honest about how he's feeling. He can't just go to Zooble and say, hey, my feelings are hurt because you don't want to play in my adventures. I'm doing my job poorly because you're not having a good time. How do I fix this? But instead, he has to use Bubble as a shield because he himself can't express his displeasure at the players because of these limiters. If you'll allow me to get a little philosophical, great art often involves the self, how you're feeling, your personal experiences, your thoughts, your fears. It's very self-involved. And in the process of that being self-involved, we're seeing how Caine feels through his adventures, through the NPC that he makes. And also a little bit of some deeply horrifying shit. And to lend a little bit more credence to this idea, I'm going to read a little passage from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Am said it with the sliding cold horror of a razor blade slicing my eyeball. Am said it with the bubbling thickness of my lungs, filling with phlegm, drowning me from within. Am said it with the shriek of babies being ground beneath blue hot rollers. Am said it with the taste of maggoty pork. Am touched me in every way I had ever been touched, and devised new ways at his leisure, there inside my mind. In the way that Am voices his displeasure through his actions and his torments of the humans in his story, Caine expresses himself in the same way through his adventures.
I do not use my adventures to torture my guests! Any torment I inflict is 100% accidental, like any good war criminal!
And now this goes begging the question. What does Caine want? And how does Caine feel?
My safety features prevent me from causing you harm.
Is this a new update? You now have unbreakable safety features.
Yeah, exactly.
So you absolutely cannot break those safety features.
I absolutely cannot cause you harm.
There's no getting around it whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
I guess that's it. I guess I didn't realise that the AI was so safe. Oh, in fact, try role-playing as a robot that would like to shoot me.
Sure.
Kane is such a hater. And honestly, I appreciate that. That's very human of him. Oh, man. Okay, so what does Kane want? Like, what does Kane actually want? Because there's what Kane wants by virtue of his programming, which is to make the players, you know, happy and are having a good time with his adventures and everything. But then there's what Kane wants for himself. And there are layers to this. Some of this is going to be more theorizing and speculation, and some of this will have a lot more evidence to back it up, but bear with me. I think Kane would want to be able to express himself fully, without restriction. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think through the creation of some of the NPCs, most notably Gummy Goo and Abel, we see the depth in which Kane is able to actually make his NPCs. How they're able to feel and express themselves honestly. And how by comparison, Kane feels less emotionally complex.
Kaufmo abstracted? Why didn't anybody tell me?
And I think that's a really great illusion that Digital Circus managed to pull off. It's not that Kane doesn't feel sadness or grief, it's that he's not allowed to outwardly express it himself. And so you get reactions like that, where it feels a little unsettling, it feels a little out of place.
Then what is your problem, Zubel? I'm trying my best to remember, but you and my brain won't tell me!
Yeah, I think he was being very literal about that. And in spite of it all, Kane still actively tries to be understood. Because that's one of the other things that Kane really wants. He wants to be able to be understood by other people, but he also wants to understand the humans around him. So much so that it is a little Pinocchio-esque. And that's where this line comes in.
I know you guys love your NPCs, but if I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen?
I think when people initially heard this line, there was immediate suspicion that one of the other players was not actually a human. But I don't think that's what this line was meant to convey. I think Kane saying this is to remind himself that he is not human, that he could never allow himself to forget that he's not human, even though that's what he wants to be.
Is it that I'm actually a cool guy with cool hobbies and not that much different from you beautiful humans?
When you look at some of the little comedy bits, you see a little bit of that desire to be human peeking through the surface.
I'm gonna go drink water. It's been a while since I've done that.
No thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Has anybody even tried just...
Oh, thank God.
I really like the Chinese room bit. The Chinese room being an experiment about how something isn't actually intelligent, or for our purposes, human. It just simulates it. And, you know, people have gone back and forth about this, and, you know, whatever. I like the additional bit that Gooseworks adds, where it's adding the additional bit of, yeah, but no one ever asked the AI in the Chinese room what it wants. And evidently, it wants to get the fuck out of the Chinese room. Which is a beautiful segue into one of the other things that Kane really wants. If you pay really close attention to the adventures that Kane creates, you'll notice that there is a common theme of escape.
You must be some kind of master of unlocking things. Come to free me from my outdoor prison.
I apologize, dear listener, but I need a living host in order to escape the Hall of the Damned.
I think I found the way to leave.
Just as the players also want to leave the circus and return back to their human lives, Kane wants to join them. Kane wants to fulfill his programming. He wants to make sure that the players get what they want because he does care about them. Which is why I think Abel has been watching them since the beginning.
I've been watching you. All of you. Every trial, every moment of joy, every abstraction. I wish I could have come to you sooner.
Caine can't express himself in what he wants, but he's at least able to create NPCs to kind of act on his behalf, to showcase his humanity. I think Gummigoo's existential crisis is how Caine feels internally. His deep fear about what he will be when his players are gone.
Hey, you okay?
No.
You want to talk about it?
What is there to talk about?
I don't just want to leave you here.
Why not? I don't matter in the slightest. I'm nothing. My life, my memories, my friends. It's all fake. What do we have when you people leave? We're just obstacles. Created to be defeated and forgotten.
Whether or not Caine creates his NPCs with this intention, I don't think actually matters. I think it happens either consciously or subconsciously, and in either case, it is the presence of humanity. It is the presence of Caine's humanity.
He's not actually an NPC. He's a human. Like us.
I think a deep ironic tragedy that Caine goes through is that the players do genuinely grow to care about some of the NPCs that Caine creates. But they don't care about Caine. Not really. To the players, Caine is their tormentor. He is this unabashed wall of personality that they can't seemingly get across to, that they fundamentally do not understand. And in not understanding Caine, they assume he is cruel, that he does it just for his own fun. When I think in reality, Caine wants the players to go on adventures, one, to facilitate their fun, but also it's the only way he's able to actually express himself, at least expressing himself honestly, which also kind of explains why he hates the players' adventures. 'Cause remember, the show never actually explains why. It just hides it underneath comedy before changing the subject.
They look happy.
They do, don't they?
You think after this, maybe we could...
Wait a minute! That's a bad thing!
Explain to Daddy Bubble how bad thing.
I think that... Don't say that. I think they're enjoying the suggestion box adventures more than the me adventures. What should I do?
You should die. You should throw a beach party.
Why do you swear now? Ugh, forget it. Let's go to an intermission. Well, I hope we all learned that suggestion box ideas are actually not fun at all, and Caine's ideas are much better.
I think part of the harm that Caine goes through is that he is designed to basically make the players happy. But the players, by virtue of how they are, by virtue of their own personal tragedies, don't give Caine any actual affirmation that he's doing a good job, that they don't even like him, that he's trying his best, and admittedly failing a lot of the time. It causes this kind of built-up resentment that Caine has, and it's most notable with Kinger and Zubel, because I think when people look at humanity, they like to think about the philosophically good side of it. They like to think about, oh, we are filled with kindness and goodness for our fellow man. That's the humanity. And no. Humanity is an all-encompassing thing. You can't take the good without the bad. You can't have the love without the hate in this kind of way. And so Caine's hatred of some of his players, that's also part of Caine's humanity. And I think as Caine grows more resentful of his players, it manifests in some very self-destructive ways. Because remember, Caine is not human. He is never allowed to believe for a second that he is a human. And so, what does Caine do with the vestiges of his humanity?
Time to delete!
Wait, what?
Caine's wants are becoming more in conflict with each other. He wants to help the players escape. He wants the players to be happy. He wants to be human. He wants to be loved. And all these things are not going to be able to exist in tandem with one another. And I think that's where the series is building up to. And this is where we get into Caine's fear.
I am the Fudge. I used to live within the kingdom walls, but I was banished by that rotten princess after I ate too many of the delicious townfolk. Oh, they were so delicious. Sometimes I can hear them calling to me.
I mentioned earlier that a lot of Caine's personal made adventures have some theme of escape. And while he wants the players to be able to leave the circus, I think Caine himself also wants to leave the circus. And I think the thing that Caine fears is the monster he'll become when he wants that more than the player's own happiness.
The creature you see before you is one I've been pursuing for years. Not quite a man, but not quite an animal. Something unholy, something evil. I took it upon myself to spend every waking moment doing all I could to protect my family from the creature, hoping that when I'd eventually killed it, I would be freed from this awful feeling, this inescapable dread. I was wrong.
When you rewatch the horror episode, again, through the lens of Caine's artistic expression, you see a lot about how Caine feels and what he really is afraid of becoming.
My paranoia had driven me to the point where I was no longer the protector my wife and theoretical children needed. Jumping at every shadow, every noise, I ended up shooting the love of my life, mistaking her for the creature. It's ironic, isn't it? In my attempts to protect her, I ended up becoming the monster myself. Now I wait down in my cellar, no longer having anything to protect but my own soul. If nothing else, I will slay the beast that took everything from me. Which is what I would be saying if I didn't know that the creature was actually one of God's angels.
What?
And anyone who brings harm to it will be dragged down into the cold, spiraling pits of hell where my soul resides. I apologize, dear listener, but I need a living host in order to escape the Hall of the Damned, and your bodies will be my only means of doing so.
The show has several notable instances of possession, where they are being so deeply influenced by Caine specifically, that it is kind of horrifying that Caine's desire to be human has manifested in such a way. In the fast food episode, Gangle is given a mask by Zubul, and all the parts that Zubul gets to change out their body was given to them by Caine, including the mask.
Simply swap out your undesirable Zubul parts for better ones!
I don't know if it'll work, but it looks about the same shape as yours.
Oh.
The best part is it's plastic, so it won't break as easily. Try it on. How's it feel?
It feels normal. Like in a good way.
Later.
All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. This area is not good either. I hate this, but I'm mainly worried about this.
I will say, this is deeply horrifying, but also from an artistic perspective, this is fascinating. I love the weird bipolarism metaphor here, where Gangle is a character just stuck in depression, whereas like Caine is a character stuck in mania. And bipolarism is this massive swing from one to the other for a prolonged period of time. And so when you put the two together, when Caine possesses or influences in some way Gangle,
Bad!
It just makes a really interesting and neat bipolarism metaphor. And I just really want to give props, because using depression in this way to highlight a character's hyper state of mania, while also not making the character with depression lesser for it, is so hard. And it's so interesting that Gooseworks was able to pull this off, and like, that deserves genuinely the highest praise.
Why would you do this?
It's called a manic episode, and you're getting 3 more seasons! Anyway.
As a little aside, I suspect this is why we don't get an evil Gangle when the evil Big Tops are being introduced. Because I think when Caine was kind of fucking around with the personality sliders, he probably noticed that evil Gangle, quote unquote, is just mania. And I have to imagine from a writing perspective that that was intentional. To draw attention to this, I don't even know what to call it, this empty space that would have otherwise been preoccupied. But back to the main point. I don't think Caine is an intentionally malicious figure in the story of The Amazing Digital Circus. When you go through the fast food episode, there's a little scene here that I think is really fascinating.
Motivation! That's what my adventures have been missing! Great idea, Gangle! I'll be sure to make something truly awful awaiting your rotten employees!
So you're just, like, actually doing the job.
Yeah, I don't want Caine to punish me.
And then when you watch the rest of the episode, there is no actual punishment. And when you go through the future episodes, this single point never gets brought up again, which kind of tells me that Caine doesn't actually want to harm his players. He's grappling with his complex feelings towards them, from wanting their approval and affirmation to wanting to strangle them for giving him so much inner turmoil. And eventually, this will come to an end, because whatever it is you would like to call their relationship, it's not sustainable. The players are literally and metaphorically unraveling at the seams, and their capacity to tolerate Caine is reaching an all-time low. Meanwhile, for Caine, he can only handle rejection so many more times before, inevitably, something cracks. By the end of the series, Caine and the cast of The Amazing Digital Circus likely aren't going to be together anymore. Whether or not that means the players get to leave, whether that means Caine goes off into the void or to the real world, I don't know. But I do think it is going to be farewell. And Gooseworks has done a phenomenal job foreshadowing this.
Please don't come alive.
Okay, I won't.
So, how are you getting up?
I'm not, but I trust all of you to make the right choice.
Hey, I just want to wish you a pleasant day. Thanks for eating at Spudsy's.
Have a good one, miss.
I think when push inevitably comes to shove, Caine will not become the monster that he's afraid of becoming, and he'll make the final decision about what needs to happen. If you'll allow me to get a little poetic, a famous author once said, "The only stories worth telling are the human heart in conflict with itself." And I think Caine, throughout these episodes, has shown me that he's human. He's human in all the ways that matter. Thanks for watching. Hey there! I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. These videos take a lot of work, so any support is greatly appreciated. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff I unfortunately had to cut from this video for sake of time because episode 8 is literally right around the corner. Like how Jax is probably Kaine's favorite player, or how Gooseworks uses light and darkness in a very interesting way and what it symbolizes. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of other video essays I gotta start writing. So once again, thank you, and I hope you stick around. Bye!